Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. How quickly things change. 3 days ago, we were signing Mbuemo. Today, Newcastle announced that they are in talks for a new deal with Callum Wilson. What does this mean for Newcastle's striker hopes this summer? We're talking about the links to Pedro, recent links to Muniz from Fulham, what's happening with Asula. Let me know your thoughts down below on Newcastle in talks on a new deal with Callum Wilson. We will get into all of that in this video, as well as some of the other players who are mentioned either being let go this window or staying. But first, I want to talk about something a little bit more positive. I mentioned the other day that I am doing the Great North Run for the first time in 13 weeks' time, and I am doing it for the Royal National Institute of the Blind. Since I mentioned it in my last video, a bunch of you guys have donated, so thank you very much. Thank you to the 4 anonymous donations. If that was you, thank you. I have said thank you to everyone in the comments, as well as Lee Patterson, Adam Bird, and a special shout out to Dan Swales, who with his donation said, Rob, I am severely sight impaired and used the Royal National Institute of the Blind to help me through what they call the sight loss journey. I'm a huge fan of the YouTube channel, and so when I saw you were doing this, I had to donate. Thank you for choosing this charity, close to my heart, and very best of luck with the run. So thank you, Dan. I'm privileged to be doing it for such a great charity. So I thought I'd mention that. If you want to check it out, QR code on screen, link in the description. But yes, Newcastle United have announced their retain list, and strangely enough, we've been talking a little bit about players being linked, rumours, but Newcastle have become quite quiet in terms of what they let you know. I remember like years ago, like you'd have like the managers doing kind of like little bits through the summer as updates. I mean, obviously football's changed a lot now, but really we're getting nothing from the club. They have announced as part of their retention list that Callum Wilson and John Ruddy are both in talks for a new deal, which, I mean, that says to me that they must be getting one, unless they just needed to make it clear that although technically their contract runs out at the end of June, they maybe wanted people to not be worried that they were going to leave. But I would argue that it's the other way around. I think most fans probably expected them to leave. So to come out and say, you know what it is with Callum Wilson, I just feel like he's had his time. He had a great time. You know, in terms of like Premier League top scorers, he's well up there for Newcastle United. He was part of a squad that won our first domestic trophy in 70 years. I just don't know how much more he can add to this side, especially when we're in this summer window where we are keen to go out and improve. Really, if you think he didn't contribute an awful lot this season, he's another year older next season. For me, it makes perfect sense to be bringing in a striker to back up Isak. Isak is no doubt the number one man up front for Newcastle, but Asula's not getting the game time. Wilson, it's an easy jump to say Wilson wasn't fit, but he was fit. He has been fit for months. We just chose not to play him. We were playing an injured Isak or an out of form Isak or a low confidence Isak when clearly, you know, at the end of the season, he was having some troubles with something, but we didn't put Wilson on. Like, we need to have, whatever the reasons are, we need to have a stronger option from the bench. And I just thought it made sense to let him go. Fair enough. You know, if the new deal is going to be, you know, you only get paid if you make, you know, 15, 20 appearances. You know, this is the kind of conversation I was having about Dominic Calvert-Lewin the other day. Bring him in on a free, saying, well, you're only going to get paid. Sorry, you get a 1-year deal, but we're only going to renew it if you make at least 20 appearances. Like, that has to be the route we go down with Wilson. But even then, I want something more than that. As I say, this is off the back of talks on Newcastle being linked up with the likes of a Pedro, likes of a Muniz from Fulham, players who I think would not be the 5-star signing in the sky, But really, we're never gonna get that when we've got Isak. Really, it's a kind of younger player who can make an impact. And I just feel like that time's passed by on Callum Wilson. If we keep Wilson, I still want a new striker. So now you're talking about having 4 strikers. And if we did bring in, let's say it was Isak, João Pedro, I would still have a Sula ahead of Wilson. So it just seems mad to me. The only way I think this kind of gets brushed over, and it is what it is if we go and sign a star right winger, a star goalkeeper, a star centre back, another centre midfielder. Then it's like, meh, okay, so we've got Isak, we've got Wilson, we've got a Sula. Let's play a Sula more. Let's make sure we actually play Callum Wilson. It's just because it's early in the window and we've done no other business, really, other than obviously Pedro coming in, the 18-year-old. And what our next bit of business is giving Callum Wilson a new deal. That's why it just feels strange. Let me know your thoughts on Callum Wilson down in the comments below. Another player who's being linked to a new deal is both Ruddy and Gillespie. I think for me, you pick between one of the two. Obviously, there's been links with some familiar faces, the likes of Forrester, Hexham lads, who was at Newcastle, left early. He was at Celtic. I was reading about how Messi was bigging him up for the Celtic game he played against Barcelona. Most recently, he was at Spurs, so he got his hands on a Europa trophy, Europa medal, I presume. I don't know whether does the whole squad get a medal? But anyway, he had his photo with the trophy. Linked to coming back to Newcastle because he has the homegrown quota, as well as Tim Krul. Obviously, he's Dutch, but he was at Newcastle long enough as a youngster to have the homegrown quota as well. Ruddy and Gillespie. Gillespie doesn't have the homegrown quota because despite being a Geordie, he didn't train in the academy long enough. So when we're looking at Champions League, we're looking to kind of buff this homegrown player situation. Really, Ruddy and Gillespie aren't really going to get a game anyway. Neither's Tim Krul or Forrester, because you would imagine it's going to be Nick Pope, Dubravka, or not Vlaco Dimos, or another goalkeeper, James Trafford, or whoever we get. Keeping Ruddy and Gillespie just seems strange to me, unless Gillespie's getting a coaching deal. But if these two contracts go through, you'd imagine that the Krul and the Forrester one just aren't going to happen, because we don't need that many goalies, particularly that many goalies who aren't going to play anyway. But then this is it. What did you want from this retention list? In reality, it was always going to be a list of players who are on the fringes, the likes of Shaw, Dan Burn, even Crafty, Trippier, these players who are a little bit older. If we want to make sure they're staying, they've all signed new deals already. So really, the list that's coming out is a reflection on players who aren't getting the game time and aren't high priority. Could go, may stay. But yeah, I think the disappointing thing is that we want to take the next step. We want to take the next step. There's been a lot of hype and excitement and, as I say, expectation for us to go out and do things this summer. And all of this doesn't mean that we can't. We've still got loads of time. We've still got 4 days left of the mini transfer window before a break, and then the big transfer window. So we have time. Just, it's Friday, no football this weekend, but take a chill. It'll all be fine, I'm sure. But really, we want to create space. We want to create space. We want to have room for new players to join. We want to fill these spots with new players. Unless it's because we've already got our list of Willock, who's linked away to Fulham, Sean Longstaff, who's linked away. The links were that Sean Longstaff was going to go to Leeds. And that's why we're looking at Krul and Forrester to try and help fill the homegrown stuff. So is it because we've got other players lined up that we're actually going to sell? Anthony Gordon's still being linked away as well. So is that why we're kind of safety in numbers, just keep them in? So if we do let players go, then we're not scrapping around in a later date for more players. Yeah. Thoughts and comments down below. The other one I'd wrote down was obviously Lloyd Kelly has gone for 20 million. So that'll be you know, a medal around Paul Mitchell's neck because that was the only thing he managed while he was here. I sold Lloyd Kelly for 20 million. And Lewis as well. Lewis has gone. I mean, goodness me, he really didn't fulfill his potential in the end. You know, Northern Ireland International, you know, most recently at Sao Paulo in Brazil. How strange. So yes, wishing Lewis all the best. But really, Callum Wilson's the headline. Thoughts and comments down below. And we're being linked to these other strikers, you know, to keep Wilson just seems odd. At the end of the day, he seems like a good bloke. He's part of the leadership group. He probably has things to help to help the likes of Asula get better at finishing. Maybe works well with Isak in training, but I've for a while used Wilson's injury issues as the excuse of why he hasn't been getting game time. He said that he's been fit for like 3 or 4 months. So Eddie Howe he's got to fit Callum Wilson. It just isn't playing him. And if you're not going to play him, then why keep him? I mean, you've got to hope that the opposite of that is Asula. And the reason he's not playing him is because Eddie Howe doesn't think he's ready. Because again, we should be using these players. And if we're linked to another striker, do we need all of them? It's all very strange. Right, there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a comment on Wilson down below. Thanks again to those who've donated for my Great North Run. I am training. I've got all the Strava and stuff as well. If you're interested in your running, feel free to go check it out. If you want to watch me jog around the block. All right, thanks for watching. No doubt I'll be back over the weekend, hopefully with some better news. Who knows? Maybe we'll sign someone very soon. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.